Hey everyone, my name is Megan. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about candle magic. This is going to be sort of an introduction to candle magic 101, if you will. This video was requested after I made my video on how to dress a candle. So I figured, we talked about how to dress a candle. Let's talk about what candle magic actually is. Now, of course, when talking about magic and witchcraft and the way that I do things, I always have to make the disclaimer that my way is not the only way. Your way might be different. That's okay. If it resonates with you, if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then I'd like to know what you do different if you'd like to leave it in the comments below. Since we're also talking about fire, I have to make the disclaimer that you need to practice fire safety when working with candles. Always have some sort of way to extinguish your flame if it gets out of control. Never burn anything too close to any surface that is flammable, etc. We all know, I hope we all know, how to practice fire safety. So before working with candles, before working with fire, please have a way to be safe about it. So what is candle magic? Candle magic is just another form of magic. It's just another way to cast spells and get things done. For me, candle magic works in a couple of different ways. It either works as a conduit, so the magic works through the candle itself. It works as a catalyst, where the candle sparks the change. So it works with other ingredients, other aspects of your spell to be the final spark of the change. Or it works as a messenger, a way for you to get messages from yourself, like petitions or wishes, to the universe or your guides or gods, or however you view that aspect of your practice. Generally, candle magic is going to be used for spells that you need to work quickly, but they are typically short-lived. The results come fast and then they're done. So one of the most common things that I see candle spells used for, and even in my own practice, is for quick money. Maybe you are low on your rent, or you need a couple extra dollars to help pay for a car payment or something of the sort. So it is used as a quick fix, essentially. You do the candle spell, you get your results, and then that's it. There aren't generally any long-term, long-lasting effects from magic that uses the element of fire. And I like the way that Matt Oren describes the element of fire in his book, Psychic Witch. If you would like to take a look at it, I'll leave a link for that in the description below. Matt describes fire as an element of passion and transformation, but it exists through transformation and movement. Once it stops moving, it sort of loses its power and its potency. So those are basically the layman's terms for candle magic and how it works in my practice. I do have different steps and things that I consider before doing a candle magic spell, and I want to talk about those next. The first step to any sort of magic is really figuring out what it is that you want. If you don't know what you want, how are you going to get it? And you need to know what you want specifically. It doesn't really help the energy that you're putting out into the universe to work if you're not specific. If you say, I need extra money, okay, do you need like $5? Do you need $500? You have to be specific with what you want. This is especially true with candle magic when you're working with the element of fire and things move quickly and then that's it, they're done. Because, if you're trying to do a spell for health over the next, 10 years, a candle spell isn't going to be my first spell that I go to because of the nature of working with the element of fire. So remember, working with candle magic generally gives you fast results that are short term. So keep that in mind when you set your intentions and you figure out what your goal is for the spell you're casting. And witches love candles, and everybody knows this. I think everybody knows this, but there are so many different types of candles that you can use. and they can all play a different role in your spell. So some of the most common candles that you'll see in spells that are easy to get your hands on are going to be tea light candles. These are relatively small, they're relatively cheap, and they don't burn for very long. Votive candles are also candles that are very easy to get your hands on. They sell them in most stores. They are larger than tea light candles, so they burn longer. And they don't have a container, so they generally need to be burned on something else, like a plate, a dish, or in a candle holder. The absolute most common candle that you'll find on Instagram and a lot of spells here on YouTube and just on the internet in general are chime candles. For me, these are like large birthday candles. They generally burn fairly quickly, and they don't usually make a large mess with wax, and a lot of spell remains. They can be hard to get your hands on. I have not seen chime candles in big corporate stores like Walmart or Target. I generally find my chime candles at the local metaphysical shop. I'm sure you could find them online as well, but these are also extremely common in spell work. I think it's because they come unscented and they generally come in many different colors, and they're just really cute. Another common candle that you'll see is usually called a 7-day candle. These are the really tall candles that are generally a plain color, and they come in a clear glass container. They're called 7-day candles because they generally burn for roughly 7 days, give or take the candle, its contents, and the environment. For me, in my practice, I use these candles as offering candles. I don't generally do spell work with 7-day candles, but it is possible, especially considering that they burn longer. So you want to keep the type of candle in mind for your spell. Obviously, any type of candle will work for candle magic, but you can add on layers of correspondences and the different burn times to the type of candle you use. So keep in mind that smaller candles will generally burn faster, taller or fatter candles will burn longer, and you can add this into the layer of your spell. If you want the magic to work faster, maybe get a candle that will burn faster, but this will also have a more short-term effect. If you want the candle to burn longer, therefore your magic will work slower, then get a larger candle. And for me, this type of candle magic tends to have a longer lasting effect. It's still short term, but longer than if you were to burn a smaller candle. You also want to keep in mind if you're going to burn the candle all in one go. Generally for me, I like to burn my candles for candle magic until the candle's gone. So I don't usually use larger candles for candle spells because
I can't sit around for days and days and days at a time waiting for a candle to burn completely out.
And it's not safe to do so while I'm sleeping or if I'm not home. And then there are also candles that come in very specific shapes, and these shapes add a layer of magic to whatever you're doing. Candles can come in all different types of shapes. There are candles that are shaped like the female body, candles that are shaped like a male body. There are hearts and flowers and even phallic shaped candles. All of these different shapes will add different layers to your spell and how the magic works. It's also a sympathetic representation of the spell. If you're doing a love spell, whether for self-love or otherwise, you might consider getting a candle in the shape of a heart to add that sympathetic magic layer to your spell, because hearts generally represent love, romance, and relationships. When choosing your candle, besides picking the shape that you want or the type or the size, factor in color correspondences if that's something that's important to you. Different colors in candles correspond to different situations and emotions and energies. And I'm of the opinion that color correspondences are entirely personal and they can be based in psychology as well. I actually wrote a short blog post about color correspondences that I will link in the description below. Some common color correspondences are going to be red for passion and love and even anger, green for money, luck, yellow for joy and happiness, and pink for friendships and platonic love. And these color correspondences are based on my own practice. So if you associate pink with springtime, that's totally fine too. But when choosing your candles, if color is important to you, keep that in mind. While you're at it with the colors, maybe you want to have a scented candle. I don't generally use scented candles in any of my spells. We all have sensitive noses here in the house, so I have to be careful with the fragrances. But if you're doing a love spell and you want to attract love into your life, maybe consider getting a red candle scented like roses or jasmine. Fragrances can add an entire layer of sympathetic magic and correspondences to your candle spells if you choose to use them. Once you've figured out what you want and the type of candle you're going to use, then the next step is to cleanse your candle. Think about how many hands touched that candle before it got into your hands. Unless you made the candle yourself, that's going to be a lot. Those candles will pick up energy of the people that touch them and the people that they are around. And not everybody is going to be happy-go-lucky all the time throughout this whole process. You have the people that make the candles, the people that pack the candles, the people that sell the candles, the people that transport the candles. You know, there's an entire supply chain, especially if you're buying from a manufacturer, where the candle is touched by so many hands. The candle will hold on to this energy, and if you don't cleanse and clear the candle before you use it, then you might run into some issues with the energy of the spell itself. So I always recommend for you to cleanse and clear your candles before you use them, unless you made the candle yourself. Then it's just your own energy, which if you were pissed off when you made the candle, then I would cleanse the candle and get rid of that stagnant, angry energy before you use the candle. As for how to cleanse your candles, that's entirely up to you. You can use smoke. Smoke is a very common method of cleansing any object or space or even a person. Cleanse the candle in incense smoke. If you're going to use herbs and burn herbs, I recommend juniper or cedarwood or rosemary. Those are all great herbs to burn for cleansing and clearing objects and spaces. You can also use salt. Roll your candle around in some salt. You can use holy water or Florida water or salt water or any other method of cleansing candles and objects. If you're interested in smokeless cleansing techniques, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I will be making a video about that here very soon. All right, so now you know what you want, you've set your intentions, you've chosen the type of candle that you want to use, you have chosen correspondences, you've cleansed your candle. Now it's time to figure out if you're going to dress your candle. If you don't know how to dress a candle, I will leave a link to that video in the description below. I'll also link it up above somewhere, whichever side it's on. Dressing candles just adds another layer of ingredients and oils and herbs and symbols to your candle to give it a boost of extra energy and magic for your spell. So now everything's ready. You have your candle ready, you know what you want. Now go and cast your spell, however you're going to cast it. For me, this generally involves sitting in my sacred space that I create, lighting the candle, focusing my intention, putting my energy into that candle or using the energy around me, and then letting the candle do its work. Once the candle for me is burned all the way down, then the spell is complete and I will get what I want. There are a couple of other things that you might consider or that you might want to think about. The first one is if you're going to be burning a candle over several days, how are you going to extinguish the flame between burnings? This is something that is argued about between different witches and practitioners. Some people say that you should never blow a candle out because it's offensive to the element of fire. Some people say that you should only snuff your candle. Then there are those out there who believe that blowing out the candle or putting out the candle in general will actually affect the magic that you're doing and affect the energy of the spell, and so that you should always let your candle burn out. These are all going to be personal. For me, if I'm going to burn a candle over several days, I don't really have an issue with blowing the candle out. Sometimes I blow it out, sometimes I snuff it. It just depends on my mood and how I feel about that particular candle and spell. So that's going to be very subjective and based in your own practice. Another common question that is asked about candles in candle magic is, can you reuse old candles or old spell candles for new spells? The opinion is going to vary depending on who you ask. I'm of the opinion that some candles can be reused, other candles should not. It is going to depend entirely on what the candle was used for originally. For example, if you had one candle that you used for a healing spell, for example, and you want to reuse it for a money spell, that would generally be okay for me as long as the candle is cleansed and cleared and reconsecrated or redressed for the new purpose. But if you have a candle that you used for banishing, binding, or any other type of baneful magic, then I would generally not reuse those kinds of candles because that energy can be harder to get rid of. And I wouldn't want to run the risk of contaminating a new spell with some sort of baneful energy from a hex or a curse or even just a binding or a banishing. I wouldn't want to take that risk, so I wouldn't reuse those candles. Again, this is going to be entirely subjective on your own practice and whether or not you feel comfortable reusing candles and cleansing them and clearing them and reconsecrating and redressing them for a new purpose. Entirely up to you. People also ask how you get rid of candle remains, how you get rid of the remains of wax from previous candles and spells. This is again going to depend. Some people will say bury them. I will absolutely not tell you to bury candle remains. I don't believe candle wax is biodegradable, and it's not something that I want to add back into the soil and the earth. If your spell was positive in nature, for example, healing or money drawing or something like that, and you have wax left over, you can throw it away. Generally what I do actually is I keep all of my wax remains and I just make new candles. The entire process of melting the wax down is transformative and it's cleansing by nature. So creating new candles from old candles cleanses them and you have cleared, neutral, new candles. If that's not an option for you, then just dispose of the remains in the trash can. If the spell that you did was negative in nature, you did a banishing or some sort of hex work, you can dispose of those candle remains in the trash can as well, but I would throw them away off the property, off of the area, so that energy is not held in your home or wherever you practice. Another option is to burn them, to just get rid of them. If you have a fireplace or a hearth or a bonfire or a fire pit, you can light a fire and then just throw all of your candle remains in the fire and burn them. Then they will essentially disintegrate and you won't have anything left except for the ashes of the fire. Now, since candle magic works fairly quickly but is short-lived, some people have asked me if you can perform the same spell over and over and over again. And I generally don't see an issue with that as long as you're not doing it every single day, unless that's what the spell calls for. Again, that's going to be entirely subjective based on your tradition or your practice and beliefs and how you feel like the spell is working. Generally, I would say before casting a spell again, do some divination and see if the spell is working in your favor, see if there is a time frame that maybe you need to wait before doing it again, and then go from there. If you have to wait, then wait. If you feel like you need to do it again, do it again. Just remember the first thing that we talked about with candle magic. It generally works quickly, but the results are often short-lived and one time only. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this sort of introduction to candle magic 101, if you will. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, anything of the sort, please feel free to leave them in the comments below and I will try to answer every single one of you. Also, make sure you check the links in the description for any links I have to other videos. There will also be a link to Psychic Witch by Matt Oren, because I know I mentioned the way that Matt talked about the element of fire. Definitely a heavy book with some good information and a lot of good exercises to help you practice and cultivate your witchy skills and your psychic skills. So check that out if you want. There's also links in the description to my Discord server and my Facebook group if you would like to be part of a growing community of witches and practitioners and pagans and like-minded people. I hope to see you there if you choose to join. And until next time, I'll see you in my next video.